Beautiful. All right, gentlemen, let's do it. Welcome back to another week here on Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. That is Clarkey. I am Drury. We're brought to you, as always, by Coolbet and in part by the Listable Squash Courts. Check them out on Facebook. Book some times over at the courts. We're very pleased to be joined by a good friend of the show and a special guest, Steve McAllister of the Parleh, as in A is Canadian. He joins us now. We're going to talk a little bit about the sports betting industry. Steve, how you doing, man? Long time no see.
Great to see you guys, and I'm sure that Lustful Squash Courts, that's got to be a contra deal, Ryan, because Clarkey, I'm sure he's decimated those walls. You're not making money in that sponsorship, I guarantee it.
They've been pretty good to us.
He knows me too well. But yeah, I'm moving my way up the ladder, boys. I just want to let you know, I'm moving my way up. Another victory this week.
Okay, so what, you're in the top 10 probably?
Yeah, I'm very close to top. I might be 10th now, yeah. And
that's top 10.
I've been trying to play the 8th and 7th place guy, and they're avoiding me because they've seen me rise up from 23rd. So I'm moving up Jacob's ladder.
You sure that's 10th in a nine-player ladder, Brian?
No, it's not. And I'll challenge both you guys anytime. Yeah. And I just want you to know, Ryan, that Alan MacArthur, our buddy there, the owner, he's challenged you to get your butt over there and play a game. So we're thinking maybe Sunday afternoon. I don't know if you're busy, but that's what we're thinking.
Well, Sunday afternoons are bad for me because it's football day. So
yeah, if you got a PVR or something, you can bring your phone
busy
over.
Laying Steve, some heat down. Okay, I'm busy laying.
All right, let's talk about betting then.
On Coolbet. And speaking of that, let's talk to Steve here. Now, Steve, I know you were at a great conference, a good event on Monday of this week. Tell us a little bit about what was going on there and what the topics were.
Yeah, so I've gotten involved with 5 other partners, Ryan and Chris, in a venture called Parleh Media Group since June. And the Sparks Knows version is we're producing short and long-term video content for sports bettors, really in anticipation of what's going to happen in Canada, and particularly in Ontario with the opening of the sports betting market, and trying to help educate the expected wave of sports fans who are going to suddenly become sports bettors. So been doing that since June, and Monday I was on a panel at the Primetime Sports Management Conference in Toronto to talk about sports betting and kind of what's going on in the industry, and give the attendees a sense of what's happening in this run up to Ontario opening for business.
Now, I know. Go
I was just going to say, what might we see? How will things change? I know Ontario's a little bit up in the air, but what do you see happening, and what changes are we going to see?
Yeah, it's a great question, Chris. So right now, you guys know that they passed a bill this summer, an amendment to the criminal code that called for single event sports betting to become legal. And so right now you have a lot of gray market operators that, are operating, and Canadians are betting, and Canadians bet as much. I think they're one of the top 5 or 6 countries in the world when it comes to betting on sports. What this is going to do, it's going to allow the government now to collect tax revenue from operators. Like I expect Coolbet they will apply for a license to operate in Ontario, and they'll have a legalized sports book, online sports book. And so that's the essence of it. And right now, Ontario is the only province in Canada that's probably going to open for business. The other provinces across the country are going to use their lottery corporations. Yes. The BC Lottery Corporation is running on sports betting through Play Now right now. I think every other province across the country is running legal sports betting through their lottery corporations.
So why has Ontario looks like chosen not to do that, and will it benefit anybody that they haven't?
Yeah, the open market works for a couple of reasons, Chris. First of all, it's really attractive to the government because they're going to get licensing fees from the operators to come in and get that license, and then they're also going to get tax revenue. So, for example, this week we saw New Jersey took in $1 billion in handles in October and paid I think they paid $11 million to the state in tax money. So that's really attractive to the government. That's really why they're opening the market. And then there's some spin-off opportunities as well. And we're already seeing it. PointsBet Canada, for example, PointsBet set up a Canadian operation, and they've got about 20 employees hired already. We just saw a couple of weeks ago, Chris, you'll probably remember Dale Hooper from Rogers Communications, who was named general manager for FanDuel's new Canadian operation. And so I think you're going to see a lot of jobs in this country come as a result of legal single event sports betting.
Yeah, Bill C-218 obviously drew a lot of attention. And I think that, you speak of the opportunities just in terms of the government and how really great it's going to be for sports bettors like myself that are going to be very interested in this. How is this maybe going to affect the media landscape? I mean, your organization, the Parleh, has been doing great content work. I mean, it's all over social media. It's not hard to find. And I think you guys have been doing a great job blasting that stuff out there. Like, just how do you see it potentially changing the media coverage just in terms of our everyday sports content that we drink in as fans?
I think that's going to be the real challenge and something and the three of us having worked the media that we're going to follow closely, guys, is how do they integrate sports betting into broadcast? And we've seen a bit of it in the US. ESPN, for example, last year did a sports betting show at the same time as they had an NBA game broadcast. And I think that's the challenge, is that if you're a broadcaster, you will obviously want to bring a sports betting element to your program, because it's going to help sell advertising spots and drive revenue. But on the other hand, you don't want to have so much sports betting content on Hockey Night in Canada, for example, where it's going to turn off sports fans who have no interest in betting on sports. So I think that's going to be the challenge for Sportsnet and TSN and for other broadcasters out there, is how do you keep your existing sports fans happy, but also provide enough information and to entice those sports fans who want to get into sports betting.
Do you think that the folks at Rogers would apply to become like a sports betting book, or would they use a third party? What do you think is going to happen?
That's there's been a lot of speculation around that, Chris. And again, it wouldn't surprise me. And Rogers is really keeping mum on what their plans are. And there's, again, a lot of speculation that TSN and Sportsnet already have a partnership lined up with a major sports book. And I think one of the questions is why are they waiting to announce it? And I think the answer is because they want to wait until there's a date that they know Ontario is going to open. Right. And then I think there's going to, once Ontario announces that date, guys, I think there's going to be a flood of partnership announcements. And we saw it in New York last week, where New York named its 9 operators, and suddenly BetMGM announced a partnership deal with Madison Square Garden. I think Caesars just announced here on Thursday afternoon that they're going to be involved with Madison Square Garden. And I think maybe the Mets and the Yankees. I just saw something on Twitter before we jumped on this call. So you're going to see a flood of these types of partnerships once the operators know the exact date that Ontario is going to open for business.
What does this do potentially for teams and franchises that are involved? Because I know, like you said, a lot of the sports venues where the teams play are going to be opening up or have already opened up in-house sports books right in the arena. I know the Capitals are doing it or have officially opened it at Capital One. Some of the Vegas teams have them involved as well. California, New York. How does this potentially factor into a financial strength for the teams?
Yeah, I think to me, for the team standpoint, it's a exciting new revenue stream, Ryan. And we saw Golf Canada announce this summer that Score Media is coming on board as their official betting partner. And I would expect that you're going to see betting kiosks at both men's and women's Canadian Opens next summer. Obviously, for Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, there's huge potential and huge dollars involved around sports betting partnerships, where you could do everything from maybe you have a retail sports book at I think it's still called Real Sports Clarkey down at the. As
far as I know, I don't know. I haven't been there in a while, but I think so.
You and me both. So there's every possibility from having a sports book at the restaurant to having kiosk at the arena. Of course, we know the MLSE owns BMO Field as well. So what's that experience look like for TFC and Toronto Argonaut games? So it's kind of, it's a wide open landscape. Tennis Canada's the other one. I'm really anxious to see what Tennis Canada and the National Tennis Center does with a sports betting partner at York University next year for the National Bank Open tournament. So I think that's the exciting part, especially for an industry like so many industries that are coming out, trying to get out of a pandemic and looking for new sources of revenue.
Well, it seems like the industry is definitely in flux right now in terms of the turnaround potential of what's going to be a landscape that we've really never seen before, certainly here in Ontario. I mean, I've always loved sports betting, being involved with it. And now to have it in this free and open looking market, I think it's going to benefit a lot of people. I wonder, though, going forward, just in terms of some of the financial benefits for teams, for leagues. We know that, baseball's definitely started to get involved. The NHL, after years of Gary Bettman saying they had zero, a couple years ago, Gary Bettman was quoted as saying he had less than zero interest in becoming partners with any betting firms. And obviously that is turning right around. I wonder what benefits might potentially be there for fan experiences overall. I mean, we were talking a little bit before we jumped on the call here, Steve, just about, we're seeing it across all sports. Teams are having a hard time getting fans at least to capacity in numerous NHL rinks. It's affecting NFL stadiums as well. It was affecting baseball games. I mean, yes, the pandemic's a huge factor in that, but also there's some other factors in there too. Could this potentially, benefit fan experiences?
Yeah, I think it's another opportunity, Ryan. And again, there's so much talk around fan engagement right now. And is that, simple things like going to a Blue Jays game now and being able to order food from your seats and be able to watch replays on your phone. And I think that's sports betting is going to play a role in that fan experience. It's funny. I was saying to you guys off camera that I had a bit of a debate with Brian Burke at the end of our panel discussion on Monday, because I mentioned during the discussion that I thought, ticket prices have kind of finally hit their ceiling after years. And Chris, you'll remember this. When I was at the NHLPA during the 1994 lockout, you and I talked quite often. And I remember having to educate reporters that the NHL kept asserting that the reason they wanted to limit player salaries was so they could keep ticket prices down, which was a complete bag of what.
Mm-hmm.
And but it took, there were some hockey writers who were drinking the Kool-Aid from the commissioner's office. And I would go home to play shinny with my buddies back in Prescott on weekends, and they'd be complaining about ticket prices. And I would say, okay, that's fine, guys. But every Saturday night in Maple Leaf Gardens, there's 16,000 people filling the seats, and most of them are wearing $200 Maple Leaf jerseys with Wendell Clark's name on the back. So, but I do think we have reached that point now where, and the three of us, I think we're in agreement here, where we're not prepared to spend $600 anymore to take our family to a game and pay $25 for parking and $14 for a beer and $250 for a ticket, when we can have a pretty nice experience sitting in our living room at home with the technology that there is today with televisions and mobile phones and et cetera. So I think there's an opportunity there, Ryan, but I also think it's a challenge too when, again, the three of us, we can sit at home tonight for the Rangers-Leafs game and we can place bets off our phone while we're watching the game on television.
Steve, 1994 was nearly 30 years ago.
Yeah, you know what? That really depresses me, Clarkey, when I hear you say that.
30 years ago. And the only thing I remember from that is never call a lockout a strike. I was reminded of that many, many times, Ryan. I was told by the guy who worked for the PA that. But anyway, the other thing I hope it changes, and I don't know if it will or not, but there's nothing more frustrating than going to a game, especially Blue Jay baseball, and having the opposition make a great play and not seeing a replay. And I'm not a kind of guy who's going to sit on my phone and watch a replay on my phone when I'm at the game. I'm not interested in doing that. I want to see it there. There's a huge, I don't know how big scoreboard in center field, but they seem to have this thing. Oh, if that's against the Blue Jays, let's not show it. It's so stupid. And I just hope the fans are getting some power back at the end of the day. And the only way they're going to get the power back is if the ticket prices start dropping and people don't show up. And I hope that happens as a fan.
Yeah. And I think we're there, Chris. And again, I don't think you can certainly put some of the blame on COVID, because I know right now I'm really nervous about going to a hockey game, whether it's Sleeman Center in Guelph or the Scotiabank Arena and be in a crowded arena. So I'm nervous about that. But I think too that people, some of the ticket prices we saw for the Stanley Cup playoffs during COVID were just ridiculous. And I wouldn't even contemplate spending $1,500 to go watch a playoff game. And so I think we're finally there. It took a long time. I mean, I think for years, guys, we've been saying, okay, ticket prices can't go any higher, and then they go higher and stadiums are still getting filled. I don't think that's the case anymore.
How's Bob doing, by the way?
Yeah.
My old boss?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen him. I haven't seen Bob Goodnow in about 10 years, probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what he's up to. Yeah,
I have no idea.
Bobby Goodnow. It didn't work out well for him at the end of that whole thing, but yeah, I agree, Steve. I think that you're right, and it's a conversation that Clarkey and I mean, you and you've worked in so many different aspects of the sports industry now. It's something that I do think is coming to a head. I mean, I know certainly just in the financial bracket, quote unquote, that I'm in, I'm not going to a Leaf game anytime soon. But
hold on. So we're half hour from game time. $60. Would you pay $60?
I would, I guess, because
so you could do that right now. But again, we're an hour and a half away. But you could probably make a plan, I think, on a weekday to say, okay, let's go down to Toronto. We'll go for dinner, and at 6:30, we're going to buy a ticket for $60. And today, it's
we have friends
original 6 matchups, right?
Yeah, we have friends. Our buddy Rodney did that recently. He was telling us about
That's right. He paid 30 something bucks.
Exactly. He paid $30, I think, at 6:50. So like 20 minutes prior to puck drop, because people are taking the tickets that they can't use or don't necessarily want to use because of either COVID or plans changing, and they can't get near market value. They're just happy to get anything for them because they know that they're going to go to waste because the ticket owner can't use it. And it doesn't affect the team. But Steve, I do wonder just how much of a head it will come to. I think that baseball is probably the one sport that I'm very interested in, obviously because of the CBA expiring in 2 weeks' time. They're in a unique position where, they finally had fans back at stadiums, but even baseball fans were complaining in a number of markets, even markets with moderately okay looking ticket prices, that they weren't happy with them. I do wonder what this potentially might do, or how much that chatter might affect the CBA negotiations. What are your opinions on that?
Yeah, it's funny, Brian. I've been following the CBA stuff really closely. I did. I don't listen to a lot of sports radio anymore. But I did make a point of listening on my drive back from Toronto on Monday night. And
what'd you listen to? Just sorry, what station?
I was listening to Brunt and Ben Ennis, mainly because they had Jeff Passan from ESPN on, my old Yahoo Sports colleague. And
sorry,
I love Jeff.
Just some of the stuff I heard that day, guys, is that this could be a really nasty fight. The one thing I will say is I love baseball, and Chris, our relationship goes back to those Blue Jay teams in the early 90s when you were doing radio and I was covering the baseball team for the Canadian Press. And I find it really hard to watch baseball now. I think it's way too long. Games are 3.5 hours. I don't like the way the game's played anymore. I think one comment Passan made the other night was they've got to get back to having 11-man pitching staffs. And he talked about this double hook rule where, I guess in the American League, there's a proposal if you take your starting pitcher out, you lose your DH, which I think is a great idea. This idea of pitchers throwing 4 innings and throwing 65 pitches or whatever. And when's the last time you saw an outfielder throw a base runner out trying to go from first to third? And I'll admit I'm a purist. I love seeing stolen bases. I love seeing guys bunted over. I like seeing pitchers hanging in from pitching 7 or 8 innings. I think the game's unwatchable right now, and I may be the wrong demographic because I'm in my early 60s, but I think 3.5-hour games are a real tough sell to young sports fans too.
I'm much younger than you, but you know what I hate? I cannot stand when I see the shift on the infield and a guy can guarantee himself a single if he just lays a bunt down third base. It just drives me crazy to see that stuff. And I agree, the game time's way too long. All the conferences way too long. Some of it sure, can be attributed to the networks and the amount of breaks between innings. But I tell you, there's so many conferences and stoppages and everything else during a game. I hate it. You know what I did love though? The 7-inning game on doubleheaders.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's a great idea. And I love double headers. And in fact, I wish they'd go back to the days where where the teams played double headers back.
Scheduled.
Again,
scheduled double headers.
It's a money thing, but
again, but now, Steve, but even now, they're clearing out the stadium between games. So it shouldn't really be a money thing anyway.
No, and it wouldn't hurt to tell your fans once a year, we're going to give you a 2-for-1. Come to the game today. You can watch 2 games, right?
Yeah. Again, power back to the fans here if they do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And it seems like a lot of leagues just don't want to do that. I mean, fans have absolutely no power. They're at the mercy of really, at the end of the day, the owners. And I mean, I'm a big Jays fan. I love the A's too. And I mean, A's fans might be at the mercy of the worst owner in pro sports. I mean, it's one of those things where that's another aspect of this CBA. I mean, a lot of chatter has been thrown around this potential idea of baseball. And to be fair, Steve, I'll agree with you. Like I'm younger than both of you, and I'm a recently engaged baseball fan. I never really had cause to really get into the sport. I love the sport now, and it's interesting. I'm getting into it at a time when it's almost by consensus never been more boring to watch the game. And I kind of have a problem with the way it operates as well. But there's a lot of chatter around this idea of baseball potentially enforcing a $100 million salary floor, or at least something in that neighborhood in the name of competitiveness, right? Because I think that baseball has a really broken financial structure. I can't stand that. And kudos to the Tampa Bay Rays, but I can't stand that teams like that are able to be rewarded for, doing a great job scouting and spending $35 million. The Oakland A's, they're going to slash their payroll to, we've heard, less than 30, which is mind-blowing in baseball. I just think that the landscape financially and what these owners get away with in baseball is absolutely putrid. Steve, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago, Ryan, that the Kansas City Royals were coming under fire for taking that revenue sharing money and just keeping it for themselves. Again, they were operating, I think, on $18-30 million payrolls, and you can't have that kind of disparity where you got teams like the Dodgers and Yankees and Red Sox spending, upwards. I mean, what are they spending now? $250 million on payroll?
Yeah.
Those teams, and then have teams operating at $35 million. It's not going to work. And again, I'll always be, I think the salary cap's been a lousy idea for the NHL. But that said, you can't argue the competitive balance that the league has right now.
Well, it hasn't helped Arizona.
Well,
no,
but Arizona's got a horrific ownership situation.
That's an outlier, right, Clarkey?
Yeah, well, I would agree, because I mean, you do look at other smaller market teams. Look what Carolina's doing. I mean, say what you want about their owner and some of the decisions he's made business wise, but I mean, the team's really, really good. Arizona's an outlier. The baseball's got 7 Arizonas, including Arizona. The Diamondbacks suck. It's like they're a mess, and I'm just fed up with Oakland being bad. I just don't understand when you can look at a salary cap might not be the right idea, but I'm totally in favor of, and this would benefit the players too, I think, from their standpoint. They want more money. They want, the free agency setup's going to be a big point of contention. But I think what they should do is lower the luxury tax threshold to something like 180 million and have a floor of 100 million, because I'm fed up with, I mean, as an A's fan, I look at John Fisher's net worth. He's worth like $4.3 billion. And what do you even own a baseball team for, John? I don't understand it, Steve. It's really, really frustrating as a fan knowing why would I even buy an Oakland A's jersey? Like, you tell me. Why would I buy a player's jersey? They're going to be gone.
I think there probably can't be a worse feeling for a fan, guys, if you're a Major League Baseball team fan, to go into spring training, know that your team has no hope in hell of getting to the postseason, and that they're going to be 25 games out by June.
Mhm.
And so if you look at it, if you use as a starting point, you've got to make changes so that doesn't happen. And that there's just too many teams in that position where they show up in Arizona and Florida in February, and they know they're going to be out of the race before the All-Star break.
Yeah,
no, it is crazy for sure. It is.
It is.
And you know, Robbie Ray wins the Cy Young. I just want to switch back to the Jays for a second. I just want your opinion on this. Like, Robbie Ray wins the Cy Young. Steve, the thing that keeps popping up into my mind is they have all these guys who are obviously good players. Why didn't they win? Is this like the best team to never win or not even make the playoffs? And do we blame the manager?
Strong argument.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's and it's funny because again, I don't watch nearly as much baseball as I used to, and I read Mike Wilner's column in the Star this week where he thought that Charlie Montoyo got ripped off for not getting the Manager of the Year award in the American League, and I watched some games during the season and I questioned some of the things that he did, but I also think the managers are really tied now by. And again, I'm not an old school media guy who pees all over analytics. I think there's a lot of merit to that, and people should look at the numbers. But I just think managing by computer is a really bad thing to do. And at the end of the day, you're managing people and you're managing situations, and sometimes your gut can make the right call. And it's funny, guys. I was talking at the Parleh. We do a Twitter Space, a show every Thursday afternoon, and we were talking about managers and leadership today. And Cito Gaston's name came up, and I was saying that I always felt that Cito was really underappreciated with those Blue Jay teams because he really knew how to manage personalities. And Chris, you'll know because you were in the middle of it. There were some really big personalities on those two Blue Jay teams that won the World Series in 92 and 93. And I think Cito did a masterful job, keeping that clubhouse together.
Yeah, there were a few egos on that team for sure.
Well, in baseball, I mean, you got to manage personalities almost more than any other sport, given the nature of how it's played, right? And I do agree with you, Steve. Like, in terms of the way the game's played, I don't know what they do in terms of the shift, and really the thing that bothers me is the pitching setup as well. I like that double hook rule. It would enforce some different strategy with the DH. Like, say you had a DH and you want the benefit of his bat for a whole game, you knew you were going to yank your pitcher after 70 pitches, which seems insane. You would have to play that guy in the field and potentially, risk poor fielding play to keep his bat in. Like, it would introduce a different part of the strategy for sure. I really think that the one thing that I'll say about the way the game's played now in closing is, and hey, I loved the book. I love the movie. Everybody talks about Moneyball and the analytics and the benefits of that. I don't think people understand because the movie has romanticized how great analytics are, and they are useful, especially in baseball. Billy Beane would probably prefer to not be known as the Moneyball guy. He did that out of desperation because the then ownership group gave them no money. Like, do you not think that he would have preferred to keep Jason Giambi and not replace him with David Justice? No disrespect to David. Like, I think that if he had $100 million, he'd spend it. And the other thing about the way the game is now is that Oakland A's team, that Moneyball team, they would not have any success the way the game's played today. All or nothing baseball. There weren't like power bats on that team. Yeah, Eric Chavez was a good player. Scott Hatteberg was a good player. That team would fail the way the game's played now. They were so reliant on small ball. They would fail. Yeah. So I don't know. It's wonky. Baseball's got a lot of work to do. And I mean, I agree, Steve. I think that this labor negotiation is going to be really, really contentious. But congrats, Robbie Ray. I mean, that's at least something we can celebrate. Do we know
who the one vote was that didn't go his way?
I can almost guarantee you it's a New York, guaranteed, no questions asked. But I will say I do find it a little odd that, the 4 guys that have won a Cy Young for the Jays, five overall awards. Now, of course, Clemens went back to back. We're all on teams where they didn't make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So almost, it's kind of weird that way. Do you think, really quick, Steve, do you think Robbie Ray's going to come back?
Well, no, it doesn't look like it. And again, that's really unfortunate. If you're a Jays fan, you kind of hope. It seems that there is a special relationship between Ray and Pete Walker. And if you're a Jays fan, you hope that's the factor. But it seems, and we've seen this, all 3 of us have seen this happen so often, that money talks, and I'm sure he's going to go wherever pays him the most money.
Well, he says he wants to win too. So you would think the Jays are in the running, but I have a feeling he's not coming back. Hey, Steve, before we let you go, you're back in Kincardine now, living there, coaching some girls. Tell us about the teams you're coaching and how they're doing this year.
Yeah, it's fun. So I'm coaching the under 18 double B girls team here. And, it's been, we're about 500 hockey team right now, but it's been a tough start for us. We lost probably our best player, a young woman here in town who's probably going to hear her name quite a bit in the golfing world down the road, Ella Jones, who decided to focus on golf. And she won a couple of CPGA junior events this summer, and she won the Ainsdale Club Championship, which as a 15-year-old is pretty impressive. Wow. We also lost 2 really good players who made a decision to not get vaccinated. And we've lost 2 defensemen in the last 2 weeks to concussions. So we're kind of running on fumes right now, but it's a great group of girls. And I've got 2 nieces playing, so this is probably going to be my last year coaching hockey. So it's a nice way for me to go out coaching family. And it's just, as Ryan and I were saying off camera, Chris, it's just really nice to be back at the rink and to see, look across the ice and see parents sitting in the stands and have the girls on the ice and in the dressing room having fun. We actually, last night I did a pizza party and a video session. One of the parents taped one of our games last week. So we broke down some video and had a bit of a team building evening here. And then I'm helping out with the Junior C Bulldogs team here in town a little bit on the executive, and serving on a committee with Gord Lamont out of Port Elgin that they're looking at revamping the WA senior league up here a little bit. So I've still got my hands in an awful lot of hockey, but having a lot of fun doing it, working with just really good people.
New captain video, the new Roger Nielsen, showing the teams some video.
Yeah, it's fun. The video is a great tool. It's I think that when the girls left last night, they realized that the old coach isn't all that dumb after all.
Yeah.
At least you think that, which is a good thing.
Oh, yeah. Soon they closed the door, Clarkey. They probably said, that idiot.
Give yourself some credit, Steve. No, I'm sure they appreciate it. No, it's great to hear. And yeah, being back at the rink in any capacity, it just feels a little bit like Canada again, which is really positive. Steve McAllister, the Parleh, where can people access your content? I know you're doing a lot of stuff with the Toronto Star writing there, but where can people access the Parleh's content?
Yeah, so if you want to see the video content, we go to parleh.tv. That's our live streaming network where we're running that content 24/7. You can follow us on Twitter at the Parleh. We've got a TikTok page, we've got an Instagram page, we've got a Facebook page. So you can follow all the content there. Depending, I'm sure Clarkey doesn't have TikTok yet, but Clarkey.
Hey, I'm on TikTok.
What?
I'm on TikTok.
What, are you watching the commercials or what?
I have an account on TikTok.
Right.
I got to find that out because
I'll
viewers should watch it. It's good.
I'll follow you. And and I'm writing every week in the Star. And I would suggest, guys, if you have anybody that's interested in learning more about the sports betting industry, I write a newsletter every week through the Parleh, so you can find that newsletter on Substack, and it takes me about 10 hours every Wednesday to write it. There's a lot of good information there from across the North American sports betting world. So if you're looking for a little bit more insight, we suggest you subscribe to that.
Awesome, man.
Ryan, at goalie_life29. Okay. At
it's
goalie_life. I only have like 9 videos on there.
Yeah, it's all cat videos. It's all Gilmore.
It's not. It's me as a goalie. I'm doing all the dances as a goalie. It's worth watching.
Could you not just?
I got to do that new one.
Could you not just done that, Clarkey?
I tried.
Jeez.
At Clark. No, what did I say? At goalie_life29.
Live 29. All right.
I had 4,500 views on one video. It's pretty good.
Oh, well, hey, that's good for you, Clarkey. There you go. I'm
go.
interested to see that cat video.
It's not a cat video.
Yeah.
Told you that already.
Our buddy Steve McAllister from the Parleh. Make sure to follow their content. They're doing great stuff in terms of sports betting and industry that's going to blow up certainly in the new year more than it already has. Steve, we really appreciate this, my friend. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, great catching up with you guys. Look forward to doing it again soon.
Wrapping things up this week on Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Ryan Drury still with you here. We are brought to you, as always, by Coolbet, and we're very pleased to be joined by one of our Coolbet betting experts. Jake Boland-Moss is on the line. How you doing, brother? Long time no see.
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's been quite the busy season here. Football, college football kind of wrapping up, but the NFL still a ton of time here to get some more bets in. So I'm excited to get some football stuff. And I know we usually come on here and do some futures and whatnot, but some NFL and college would be nice.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. And let's dive into that. Obviously, a lot of college games this weekend, the season getting ready to wrap up soon. What are we looking at for this weekend in terms of some heat to lay down on the college game?
Yeah, I was looking at some trends, and one of the things that stuck out to me the most was Clemson's against the spread record, 2-8 on the season, 1-4 at home. So immediately I went to see who they're playing. They're playing Wake Forest, the best team in the ACC Central, I believe they're called. I think they're best team ACC overall, 9-1, and they're plus 4.5 dogs at Clemson this weekend. Winning Clemson will actually lock them into the ACC championship. So that'd be nice for them. Have a nice rest week next week. Obviously, if they don't beat Clemson, they'll have a chance to do it against Boston College next week. Clemson still has a path of their own to the ACC championship, but it's a lot harder. I think they got to win out, and then they'll need NC State to lose one and also Wake Forest to lose one. So it's a bit of a mess for them. I'm guessing their season's more over than it's not. They really haven't been themselves this year. I think there was a lot of high praise for them coming in. Just really hasn't panned out. Not that they're doing bad at all, 7-3, but it's Clemson. We expect them to kind of roll everybody in the ACC. So I'm taking Wake Forest plus 4.5 on the road in Clemson. I think they can find a way to win this game, and if they do, they're into the ACC championship. So we'll see what happens.
I love it. I agree. Yeah, Clemson has not quite dominated the way that we're used to seeing them dominate, certainly in the way that we all expected at the start of the season. Let's move to the NFL. I mean, football, we're at the midway point. We've still got that extra game to look forward to at the end of the season for the first time, and it's a hot and heavy time to get involved with betting in the NFL. Buccaneers last week, not a great performance. What are you looking at from them this week?
Yeah, I was on the Bucs last week. Bit of embarrassment. They lose by double digits to the football team. Not great.
Yeah.
I'm taking them down to 9.5. Right now they're 10.5 on Coolbet for a regular juice. I'm taking a little bit extra juice, minus 128 on the 9.5. I just like the number a little bit better. You can get to that 10-point win like they lost last week. Bucs have been substantially better at home this season as opposed to on the road. 3-1 against the spread at home, 0-5 against the spread on the road. So huge difference there. I like them a lot better at home. They're coming off tough losses to the Saints and football team. I have a hard time seeing this team lose 3 in a row with all the talent they have. I think there's talk about Gronk. He's practicing. Hopefully he can get back in the lineup. That'll be huge for them. And like I mentioned, Bucs at home, they're 4-0 straight up this season, winning average margin 22 points. So they're beating up on teams besides the Dallas game where they just squeaked one out the first game of the season. They beat up on bad teams at home. Falcons 23-point victory, Dolphins 28-point victory, and then Bears the most recent home game 35-point victory. So I'm gonna take the Bucs. I'm gonna buy them down to 9.5, but I still don't mind 10.5. I don't think the Giants are that great, and I just have a hard time seeing this team lose 3 in a row.
I completely agree. I don't think Danny Dimes is the guy to push them to a 3 game losing streak based on what we've seen out of the Giants and questions about Saquon Barkley still. And if Gronk plays, I mean, what do we know about Gronk? He only needs to make 2 or 3 big plays in a game, and then he can sit for the rest of the afternoon. Ravens Bears, we've got a little over-under action here. One of my favorite things to bet on. I love the NFL over-unders this year. They've been very kind to me. What are we looking at?
Yeah, I saw Ravens Bears total set at 44.5. Did some digging. Last 3, both defenses have just been atrocious in giving up points, both averaging over 30 points against. in the last 3 games. 2 defenses that you'd probably expect to be a little stronger than they are. The Bears just haven't really been the Bears D of the last few years. Khalil Mack's been banged up. That hasn't helped them. So I think this is a game where the Ravens are coming off a tough loss on Thursday night. The Dolphins really couldn't get anything going. I think they kind of wake it up. Ton of time for game planning. Bears are coming off the bye. Ravens, like I said, had the Thursday nighter, so they got an extra time to game plan. I think both these offenses come to play. Defenses, I think, will be fine, but I think they can get over the 44.5 in that one. I think the Bears keep it close. I think they'll be feisty in this one. Baltimore, something to prove after the Dolphins game. So I think more points than you'd expect in this one. I could see it getting to 50. So 44.5, why not?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think both defenses have been a little patchwork of late, and not quite sure what's up with Lamar lately. He's had a couple clunkers, and I expect him to have a big bounce back game. And hey, Justin Fields, we saw in recent weeks what he can do when he starts to feel confident and in a bit of a rhythm. Let's hope that he can push the point total on Baltimore, who haven't exactly been lock and key on the other side of the football as of late. Jake, I want to run one last thing by you. I mean, you know this. I'm a big New England Patriots fan. They've been hot. They've been doing really well. I mean, I think Mac Jones might have a decent lock on potentially the rookie of the year. I have some heat down on that from the start of the year. He's been by far the best rookie quarterback involved, and he has a chance to break the all-time completion rate record. Of course, Dak Prescott holds that at 67.5%. Mac sitting at a nice 69. But if I was to, throw a theoretical bet your way, would you lay money down on the Patriots being a wild card team? I don't think they can overtake the Bills. I don't want to get silly here, but would you lay heat down on them making the playoffs?
Well, Ryan, you may not know this, but I'm also a huge Patriots guy. So I'll be honest with you. The way they've played in the last 4 weeks, and you seem to be more of a realist Patriots fan than I am. I think they can surpass the Bills. I think they are that good. Defense, well, this is the problem, right? I get on my high horse, and here we are. We're gonna see what happens tonight. 6.5 point favorites in Atlanta. It'll be an interesting one. I think a lot of the money's coming in on New England, probably the sharp money on Atlanta. So we'll see if they have another big blowout game. And these are the Patriots of old would beat up on the bad teams like the Atlantas. And like last week, and then the Panthers, like beating up on them. The defenses look strong every week, and I think Mac Jones gets better every single week. He impresses me so much. It's crazy what Bill's doing. Last year was a nightmare with Newton. I don't know how you felt about it. I don't know. I think this team has a lot of potential. 100%. Wild card, 100%. This team's going to the playoffs. Maybe they pass the Bills. We'll see what happens in December, I guess. I
love the confidence antler on Jake right now. Let's go, Pats. Come on. No, I agree. Mac's been really impressive. That defense has been lock solid. Particularly the defensive side. Matt Judon has been a freak back there. He has been unbelievably good. Baltimore ruining letting him go. Talking about the Ravens' leaky defense. Could they ever use a guy like that? He's been immense. And hey, that offensive line is doing its work, man. They are doing a good job, and Mac's got plenty of time back there, and he's making them look smart. I really appreciate this, Jake. Let's see how this works out. I'm going to lay some heat down on all your suggestions here, and I'll come back next week, hopefully a happy customer. What do you think?
Yeah, I hope so. Let's keep it above 500. That's all that matters.
Absolutely, man. That's all we can hope for. Jake Bullemoss of Coolbet. We really appreciate this, brother.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ryan.
All right. Remember, you can follow the show online. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. You can find us where all the best podcasts are. We have a YouTube channel as well. Make sure to follow us at Instigating Pod for Clarkey, for our guest Steve McAllister of the Parleh, and of course, Jake Bullemoss from Coolbet. We'll see you next week on Instigating with Clarkey and Drury.